What's the name of that song again? It's like old time rock and roll. There we go.
Bob Sager, your boy.
Nice, Bob Sager. He's where's he from?
Is he from the South?
I don't know
where he was. He made that song in 1978.
He has a southern name.
About music not being the same, and then Michael Jackson came out with Off the Wall and Thriller.
I was listening to Michael Jackson last night.
So was he right or wrong?
I don't know. Let me give you a proper intro first. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to I'm Up with Anthony Santino. We are in my apartment. It is mid-afternoon. I usually record these at night, but I like this afternoon vibe. No, this is good. This is
nice.
Yeah. No, I usually lure people over here at night, and this is a little less creepy. So we got a guy here in the afternoon. He'll get out safely, I promise. This is his waiver. He's signing it. It's on the video. Very funny comedian based out in New York at the moment. I see him all around, and I'm happy to have him on. Please give it up for Jared Waters, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you for having me, brother. Nice place you have. Very classy.
I appreciate it. You know, the first person to say it was classy. Some people have said it's nice. You're the first person to say classy.
Classic.
I appreciate
All
that.
legends on the wall.
Legends on the wall. He saw there's a Kevin James framed photo on my little.
First walk in.
Yeah. When you first walk in, it's the first person you make eye contact with is Kevin James.
What's the story about this llama in the taxi?
There is a picture of a llama in the taxi on my wall. What happened was I was buying artwork for this place. I've been here 3 years now, and I was buying stuff, and I came across, I was like, let me get like old New York stuff going on. And I don't know which people I have an attachment to in old New York. I'm sure you could conjure up some. I'm Italian,
Thanks.
Irish, there's all those people or whatever. Then I saw a llama, and I was like, that's close enough. So I just found that, and I bought that.
That's cool.
Yeah, he's sticking out. There's a llama sticking out. Maybe I'll put an insert on the video, and I'll be a little interactive with it,
You're born in New York?
I'm born in New York. I'm born in Queens. I live in Brooklyn now. And you're born in Tampa, right?
I'm not born in Tampa. I'm from. So my dad's a military dude. So like my home is all over, like nomads. But like my home base, the longest place I ever lived was Tampa.
Nice.
So it started in Tampa. All my friends are in Tampa. Met my wife in Tampa. So Tampa's like my home.
Excellent.
So I'm from Tampa, Florida, by the way of the Netherlands, Tokyo, North Carolina. So yeah.
Oh, you're very worldly with that then. Yeah.
Traveled around this globe a couple times.
Yeah. Well, I was we were talking a little bit before. I'm actually going to be in Tampa, by the way, Tuesday through Friday.
What show? Or are you just chilling with the family?
Just chilling this time. Usually when I go down there, the only real I know you, Farzan, some random people JJ Curry.
Now they're all here. I wish they were here 6 years ago when I was here by myself fighting for time.
Yeah.
But now it's good.
You have a lot of compatriots around now.
Yeah, man. Me and Rio started together. Farzan, when I was leaving, he was coming up, so it was cool. We run the show together now. So it's cool just having somebody there, like having a sense of home,
Yeah. And it's nice down there, too. The comedy scene's great. I mean, obviously there's side splitters and improv, but I feel like in St. Pete there are a lot of indie shows popping up.
So a lot of people don't realize that Tampa's a bay. Right?
Yes.
So we have the most comedy clubs out of every city in Florida.
That makes sense.
So we got maybe 6. There's St. Pete has 3, then Tampa has 3, then Clearwater has 1. So that's all part of the Tampa Bay area.
What's in Clearwater?
Clearwater is Snappers Comedy Club.
Yes, there we go.
It's out there. There's another club called, I forgot some of this. There's a thing called Bonkers Comedy Club.
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it.
Bonkers, little pop-ups are around there.
Cool.
And Tampa, we have just a big area. And then we're an hour from Orlando. So most of the comics in Tampa come up with a lot of time. If they work hard, they can get a lot of time.
Yeah.
So it's just coming here, just shaving the fat off the time and realize you don't need that. You don't need this 5-minute setup. You can get to the meat faster.
Yeah. That's what I love about New York is growing up here and going to shows, you get a sense of that kind of right away. So yeah, what was your experience? You just mentioned that part of the process, trimming fat and stuff. When you were down there, was it you were more forgiven with premises, or what was the deal with you coming up as a comic down in Tampa?
So coming up in Tampa, it was a very tough environment because a lot of the guys who were on, they weren't really trying to help. The younger guys, they were taking spots. And this is respectfully, they're still taking spots because they used to host. So there's a new wave of comics coming up, and we would all just go to open mics together. We'd all tag each other up. But it was just guys holding on to these spots that they're not moving on from. No one would leave to go to New York and California. There was one guy named Robbie Schlowick. He was the first person we ever met that went to New York and went to California, and that's when we knew it was possible.
Yeah.
There was a dude named Scotty Lavelle. I think he moved back, but Scotty would come back and goes, I started a show in New York. We're like, what? You started a show in New York? It's called the Comedy Commune. I got Mark Maron coming, Mark Norman. How the freak did you do that? So he would like do all these big shows, and then he like got introduced to different comics. So when we were coming up, we just knew there was more out there. Does that make sense?
Totally, yeah.
But the Tampa scene is very gritty because since there wasn't a lot of like spots, we had to make our own.
Yeah.
So we would all hit the road together. Like a guy named Cam Bertrand, he's like from America's Got Talent. We all came up with each other. So it was very tough because we had a old school retired. He wasn't. His name was Bobby Jewell and BT. Those guys that own Side Splitters. BT owns it now, but they were old school, traditional, like old football coaches where you like kill, and they were like, that was okay.
Right. They really downplay you.
So we would just always rib each other a lot. So it was just like everyone had to get tighter and tighter.
Yeah.
Because we're all fighting for like a couple spots. But since there's so many spots around to get better, you just get better.
Yeah.
But when I got here, I realized open mic was 2 minutes.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on.
2 minutes, and everyone at the open mic are stand-up comedians.
Yes.
So that was completely different because I was used to an open mic, having a crowd there.
I was gonna
having
say.
like 30 people, 40
Yes.
people. You could actually get quality stage time and realize like, oh, this is just a networking experience.
Right.
Or just realizing, like, man, when I got to New York, I thought I wasn't funny because I was like, man, what the? I went to this
Mics are tough, man.
Pine Box Rock Shop.
Yes.
You remember that one?
I've never done it. I've tried, but it gets packed out. But it's all comics, of course.
It used to be a bloodbath. The first wave would be the comics with the credits. The second wave would be the guys who probably do festivals. The third wave is when everybody left and only two
Yes.
people watch your bits till you realize they're all comics.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm doing quality A+ jokes, and I was like, well, it's not hitting.
That's what's tough, man, because with mics, it's like, if people don't realize, it's like, in New York, at least from my experience, this is the only place I've ever done mics at. I've done shows out of town or whatever, but mics here, it's like you come to realize, all right, maybe great shit will hit, but if it's good, sometimes comics, they could be great people. You could love them. In the room, the energy is like, they're worried about their stuff. They don't care. They're in their notebook, their phone.
Or
it's
it's friendships. It's just like, I was like, oh, I realized this one dude who was killing. And I was like, oh, you know everybody. Of course they're going to be nice to you. You run this mic. Of course they're going to laugh at these bits a whole lot harder.
Yes.
Then when I started hanging out with comics, I realized, like, oh, it's just a glitch in the matrix.
Yeah.
Once you, like, understand the scene, like, you go to open mics just to meet people.
Yes.
And it's to bond and meet your classic
Yeah.
comics. And once you meet the guys you come up with doing open mics, eventually they'll have a show like, yo, come do my show. And I was like, oh, that's what it was.
Yeah.
So once I got out of my head, realized, like, oh, I don't have to kill these open mics.
Right.
I think the worse you do, the better you do, because they're like, oh, he worked on a premise today.
Yes. No, and I like that you use the word networking for it, because like that is a great way to look at it. It's like, all right, well, at least I'm meeting buddies, and yeah, like the worse you do, the better. Like you get stuff out of it. Like you get a premise. I've gotten like some random tags out of it, just feeling like I was bombing, and then like getting back into it a little bit. So it's like mics are tough mentally in New York, but again, if you utilize it the right way, it can feel good.
And it's a rite of passage too. I tell a lot of the guys like came up from Florida, I was like, don't despise open mics. Like, sometimes the boys that hit me, like they're visiting, I'm trying to do all these shows. It's like, no. Just don't think. I was like, you have no credits.
Yeah.
You're a nobody here.
Yeah.
What's wrong with doing open mics? What's wrong with meeting new comics?
Of course.
Because all the people I started open mics with, now they're like movers and shakers, and we have that remembrance. Like, you remember the Pine Box Rock Shop?
Of course.
Remember we used to do this? Like, oh, I do remember that.
Yeah.
So you have that familiarity. Like, oh, we were in the swamp together.
Yeah.
Me and Julio used to do open mics together. I remember freaking all these Miami comics I met here. I never met them in Florida because they're so far away from us.
Yeah.
So then it'll be like cool nights where you get to see someone rise up. Like you get to see someone finally get late night, and you just see everyone like, oh, we did open mics together. Oh, I was like, oh. So it's like a community. I think New York City is based off, it's a community-driven scene.
It is, for sure.
Unless you have some big credits, then you don't have to do open mics. You come here as a talented red shirt recruit from whatever town you're from, you get to skip those steps, but it's like that feeling of just hustling open mics.
Yeah, I know. I mean, the internet helps people too. You could.
Yeah. I wish it was there 6 years ago. I remember
Yeah.
it was just about posting pictures on Instagram.
Right.
Or we would just do that to get the Creek in the Cave.
Yeah.
It was like a homeless shelter a little bit. Because I remember one time I was leaving open mic, and I was like, why do these guys stay so late?
Yeah.
Until I realized they started pulling out bags. And I was like, oh, you guys live here. You guys live here.
You guys
Like
live.
Oscar the Grouch had coming out of trash cans and stuff
Exactly.
like that. So it's just like really good times that I cherish about the New York. It humbled me because I listened to my bits from like 6 years ago and realized like, oh man, I wasn't ready.
You come up. Yeah. You sometimes.
I wasn't ready. The
Yeah.
things I thought I was ready for, I wasn't
Yeah,
ready.
you might have stuff that gets laughs, but there's the levels of laughter, and then you're like, oh no, I have way stronger shit now than I did last year, and
Correct.
I'm sure that'll just keep evolving over time, you know?
And just getting up on stage too, man. And that's what I tell some of the people. I was like, dog, it's like, oh, you got a lot of shows. Like, I remember when I didn't have any.
Right.
I remember when I was just scratching for 2 minutes a week.
bet.
Just like, yo, can I just do 2 minutes? Can I do 2 shows a week?
'Cause
That's all I want.
Yeah, I see you all the time. I know you have a lot of shows, but as I look at that, I'm like, oh, I bet there was a time he didn't, so he must appreciate this. Like,
You don't man.
Exactly.
You understand.
No, I do.
You know what
No,
it's like.
'cause-
You
yeah.
you understand what it's like. dog.
Totally. No, I'm happy for you because that's cool. I see like you get up a lot and you're hustling, and then like now I get more than I did last year. You know, it's earlier for me. Like I'm 2 years in on stage. I used to do like sketch writing and stuff that was different,
That's
like
cool.
UCB or whatever. I always skirted around stand up. Like I loved it. Always, obsessed over it, but never wanted to do it. I was like, oh, that's for like Bill Burr and Chappelle and those people.
Right.
You know, then you realize the levels. The more like shows you go to in New York, you're like, oh, there's a spectrum of talent, of work ethic, and like you could find your way in there.
New York is very humbling because
Yeah.
you get to see the highest level of it.
Yeah.
Then you get to see the lowest level of it until you realize like there's room for everybody.
Oh yeah.
There's a space for everyone. And I remember just
At all levels too.
all levels.
Dude, it's a subjective art, man.
I remember this great podcast that I listened to. This comic, I forgot his name, but Tommy Johnigan came to Tampa and asked his feature act, and I was driving his feature act around and driving them around to get cigars because that's what we did in Florida. Like when a headliner would come,
Ybor City.
Ybor City, when we come, we would like the whole goal would be like to host a weekend. If you host a weekend, you get to drive them around. You get to drive them around, and then you get the free gems in the car.
Yeah.
No one's not going to ignore you when they're in your own car.
Yep.
So Tommy Johnigan's, let's go get some cigars. I don't smoke cigars. He wanted to get seafood. I'm like, sure, I don't give an F.
Whatever, yeah.
And they talked about this
Let's
podcast
commit a crime.
about Joe List used to be Tommy Johnigan's feature act.
Oh, okay.
So they would always bring Joe because Joe liked to have fun. And then Joe did this podcast with Pete Holmes. Pete Holmes about restarting in New York. And I listened to that and I was like, that makes more sense. He's pretty much the premise was Joe List was like for all these guys, he was their feature act.
Yeah.
What's that? Nick DiPaolo,
Yes,
all these other
yeah.
big guys, they would always bring Joe List. And that's where we met him in Tampa as like a feature act. So when he got to New York, all the people we knew were just headliners. And the headliners couldn't give him stage time because they're already connected. They're already at this top level.
Yep.
So he like humbled himself and started doing open mics again. That's when he met Mark Norman. That's when he met Mike Lawrence. And he met his classic comics.
Oh, that's actually, I never knew that. You know what's funny? I listened to Tuesdays with Stories. I listened to his Mindful Metal Jacket podcast. I didn't know that. Like, I know the retransformation he had to do. Like
2016 or 2015, he did that podcast. And once I understood that, I was like, okay, I'm reintroducing myself to the scene.
Yeah.
I'm reintroducing myself to make new people or new friends or everything I accomplished. I remember Bobby Kelly took me on the road, which was so cool.
That's awesome. He's great.
And then I realized when I got here, he's like, all right, I can't do nothing for you.
Oh, when you got
and
back
it
to
was,
the city?
but it was just like, because we're in Florida. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
you want to open up for me? Cool. Hey, come to this room, which is nice because we're in Florida. But like in New York, it's like he can't take me when there's other people in line to
A lot
do
of
this.
people.
You know?
Yeah, yeah.
So it made me realize like I'm glad that no one skipped any steps with me.
Yeah.
I'm glad that every step that I took because it was like humbling. It just makes me know like, yo, everything that I did is like hard work and just faith.
Yeah.
A lot of people got faith, but they don't have the work ethic.
Yeah.
Faith without works is dead. So I tell people all the time, you can have faith for God to do something, but you got to show God that you're willing to work for it.
Yeah, no, and it feels like, I mean, with my little experience, like everything builds up. Like every little thing builds up. Like you might have a night where you're like, damn, there was an emptiness to that, or I want to do better or whatever. But then you realize, oh, I did get something out of it. And it does build up.
There was one night in August where I bombed like maybe 5 nights in a row.
Really?
I was like, what the freak has
That's
happened?
tough.
It was just like bomb. It was like bomb after bomb. And I never blamed the crowd. I was like, what could I have done to get this crowd over? What could I have done to do this? And then the next night I was like, okay, let me see if I can swim. Like if the crowd's very ruly, let's see what I can do. And I was like, I finally pulled out my slump. But I was like, imagine if I only had those 5.
Right.
I would have been sad the whole freaking month.
Right.
And just knowing like, that's okay. I lived I got another night. I got another one.
But you
this
got-
one didn't work.
yeah.
Boom. Like I have a premise. And like within like, because me and Mike Bricks, I would say this year is the year I started posting more clips.
Yes.
My buddy Cam Bertrand was like, look, you got to post clips. If you want to build your following, you can keep doing it the old school way or post clips. I was like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So I started posting some, then I realized like, all right, I got to write more now. It made me write more because I was like, all right, I want to drop more clips.
Totally.
So I need to write more and have more things to talk about. So
Yeah.
like I feel like this year I've added so much time of just like,
No, that's great.
clip it.
But I think it helps. Like the
Clip it.
clip stuff is good. Like as much as some people might look at it and be like, "Oh, the internet's unhealthy for this or that." Yeah, but also I agree with you because it does force me to write more. Like, listen, I try to write topical stuff. It might hit, it might not hit hard enough. And then I'm like, oh, I don't want to post that. It didn't hit the way I wanted it to. But it does force me to write. And then it'll get me in motion. And then I'll write stuff that I'm adding to my act. And then, I don't know, tell me how you feel about this. I have this relationship to like my material where I'm like, all right, this stuff kills so hard in person, but if I don't have like the right, I just upgraded my camera rig. Like we're shooting this on a Vixia HFG 50. No disrespect, but I got a better camera. So talking shit about the camera, I'm buying the hand that feeds me. But I got a new camera. I got like a Sony FX30 or whatever. It's like a little bit better. So like, you know, but I've always said like, oh, if I shoot this, but it's like then I put it out there. I don't want to do it on stage as much. Do you have anything on your Instagram or any other social that like is in your act and you'll still do it after you post it, or how do you feel about that?
Yeah, man, that's the hard thing I have right now. I got a couple haymakers that I haven't posted yet because these jokes are 5 minutes long.
Yeah.
So it's like finding a way how to respectfully clip them to get the same amount of juice. And sometimes I feel like, oh, this should be on a don't tell. I shouldn't just put it on my Instagram, or this shouldn't be this. Or sometimes a joke that you have that is fire only gets 5,000. I was like, yo, I worked so hard for this freaking
that's
joke.
The thing
and
I have
only
with it
got
too.
$5,000. Or the ones that I just talking about how I feel about life. I was like, this one got 100.
Well, that's the thing. It's like
that algorithm is something.
Well, it cheapens it too, because then you're like, this thing I've used like 100 times or 150 times. It kills so hard in person, and then online I get like 102 likes on it, and it's not. It doesn't depress me because I know it's still.
No,
a good
it
thing.
is. It F's with your head.
It
like,
does.
oh.
It does, and that's why like I want to hold out on the stuff that's like really like, you know, to the bone of who I am. Like then that's why it's good to write topical stuff, because you're like, oh, well, I'm not attached to this. It's not as evergreen, you know.
Or sometimes it's just like sometimes you gotta realize, like, if I'm not giving the gold out, how can I know if gold is receiving?
That's true.
If I'm giving out silver, that's you get silver responses. So now I'm feeling that. I mean, this past year I've watched a couple of my friends become millionaires.
Yeah.
Just off clips. And I remember watching Say What You Want About Matt Rife, but I was listening to one of his interviews where he talked about how he got invited. Did you hear this one?
Which one?
Got invited for Just for Laughs. He had a show in the pandemic, him and his boy Paul. And they invited Paul to Just for Laughs, but they didn't want to bring Matt with them.
Oh.
And they do the show together, and Paul goes, I got to have Matt with me. They go, he has to fly his own way out, everything else. And he said he does it. And as he's doing it in Just for Laughs, he's not a part of the festival, but he goes, I had this clip that I was wanting to post. And he's like, I don't want to post this clip. And then he posted, then it goes viral.
That's the one that went stupid, right?
It went crazy.
Yes.
And then after that, all the other videos go crazy.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, now they're investing into you, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I saw that happen with my boy Troy Bond. I remember before Troy posted that clip, the night that it happened, I went up first, Julio went up next, and then it was Troy Bond.
Yeah,
and
the lady one, right?
The lady one.
Yes.
But when I was leaving, this girl comes out, and she goes, I met her. She was like, hi, I really enjoyed your set. I was like, why are you leaving so early? You're like, cancel the show? She's like, I got kicked out because this freaking racist was on the show. I said, racist? What racist? Some white boy. I said, there was no white dude on that lineup. She goes, what? I was like, no. Me? I'm black, Julio, Spanish. And I was like, in Troy. And she goes, Troy Bond. That's his freaking name.
White supremacist.
And I was like, he's black. She goes, what? I was like, his dad is blacker than both of us. And I show her a picture. I was like, oh my God.
So
I
she
feel
got
so
to reveal
bad.
that
She
night.
goes, I feel so bad. I was like, he's mixed. And she goes, I'm mixed. My dad's white and my mom's black. And I was like, how bad was it? She goes, it was pretty bad. I was like, how bad was it? Yeah, score. I said, if it's bad, it'll be on Troy's TikTok in a couple days.
Yeah.
And next year, you know, this was like when it first started bubbling, and I sent it to her because I was like, hey, here's another show if you want to go that way. Then she like, oh my God, can you tell him I'm so sorry? I'm so sorry. And next you know, it went from like 1 million, 2 million, 10 million, 12 million. And it was dope because before that happened, Troy was talking about sometimes in the room, I'm trying to figure out this algorithm, I'm trying to put out this sketch and everything else. But that video, boom.
Yeah.
And then he had everything else to follow. So sometimes we'll be in our head like, yo, this video should get 100K. This video get 1 million. But if it does get 1 million, you got nothing for the people to go back and listen to.
Of course, yeah.
You know? So I'm like, I'm just building the discography.
Yeah.
Building the discography. If one thing hits, I've seen it change people's lives.
Totally.
And at the same time, if it doesn't hit, you can still work on your act.
Oh, of course. And that's the thing I feel excited about. Like, I've had a couple of random sketch videos do okay or well or whatever, but I don't want to hold my hat on that. Like, I still, at the end of the day, it's about the stand-up. Like, I want my stand-up to be strong as possible. Because, you know, you go up in an environment that's new or more people or whatever, you're like, well, at least I have this stuff.
Correct.
And I want to, like, quadruple the amount of that stuff. You know, I want to be like, at least I have 4 times that. I want that, you know?
Well, so like my schedule, like me and Mike Bricks, he's like my camera dude. I've been knowing him for like years, like photography. In the pandemic, we got very close. And one time I seen him, and I said, "Do you record?" He goes, "Yeah, I record." I was like, "I was a videographer." I was like, "What?" I said, "Let's do it." So we started doing like every Monday and every Friday. Right, so he's been going around with me, so he knows, understand the bits, and he goes, "All right, we already got that one good. Let's do another one. All right, let's do this one." I was like, "All right, Frick, you're right. Nice. Let's shoot this." And I was like, "All right, good." So I'm always just like, now I'm trying to analyze my life. What's funny about my life? What's everything else? So now I'm not so attached to my material. I can let go a little bit.
Oh, okay, so you're posting some of this stuff that's been in your act for a while. You're saying.
Posts are just like interactions with the crowd that I probably never would ever post. I was like, "Oh, this is really fun."
That's good. So you're saying like you're not being too picky or meticulous with that. So you're like, let's see what this does because I liked it. Yeah.
I got 3 jokes I want to do. Everything else, I can let it happen. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I'm not gonna be so autopilot anymore.
I like that. Yeah.
I used to be like kill.
Yeah.
And I realized like, no, let me take this other bit and put it in the middle. See, like, let me work it to it to get to kill it.
Yeah.
So I have like now a few closers. I used to just have one closer.
Right.
And now I was like, I can close with anything now.
Right.
And like for me, I think everything comedy changed for me in New York City was the pandemic. That was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
The pandemic is when you'd probably know New York City is a hard scene.
Oh, yeah.
It's very hard. It's cutthroat. Every comic is selfish and everything else. And everyone you could give, and they won't give that love back. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Sometimes you're like, I want to book them for my show, and then when it's their show, it's like what the
right. And and you could get competitive in your head, like, oh, I kill better than this person, that person, whatever. And I don't do that publicly, but in my head, be like, what the, But then I think there is a good aspect to that because it's like it just makes you stronger. It just makes you want to work harder and stand out.
So a lot of Florida comics, we don't do crowd work.
Really?
We don't do it. Well, everyone in Tampa, we're just like the owner would yell at us all the time, "Stop talking to the crowd," because the crowd gets very wild. The crowd gets so wild. They stop talking to the crowd, start get drunk, start fighting. Inside splitters, it goes, don't yell or don't woo. You're not Ric Flair. That's because of me.
Really?
Because I used to like, woo! And then the whole crowd was like, woo! You got 400 people wooing the whole night.
What's the problem with that if they're not fighting?
They're like interrupting the show.
Randomly they would heckle after that and stuff?
It was. They turned into Ric Flair. So just imagine just hearing 1,000 people do that all the time.
Yeah.
But we just never did crowd work because it can go left so fast.
I get that, yeah.
So in the pandemic, when the pandemic hit, the whole city shut down. City shut down, and every comic went back to their towns. They went to New Hampshire, they went back to Florida, wherever they went. And I told all the Southern dudes, I was like, whatever you do, stay. Whatever you do, stay.
In Tampa or New York, you're saying?
In New York. I said, well, if you live in the city, stay in the city because the scene's going to open back up. And when it opens back up, there's not a lot of comics here, so it'll be easy to stand out.
Yeah.
I just knew it. Freaking after Michael Che did that first show and in that little culture lab thing in that parking lot.
Yeah.
I was like, everyone's gonna start doing park shows. Some people are gonna be scared to come outside, and everyone was all going to 2 shows a night. So the whole scene would either go to 1 show, and there's only literally 6 shows a week there. So no one could ever say you weren't funny. There could never be a case where someone says, I've never seen him go up before because I'm on every show that's happened in the pandemic.
Right.
So I met all the younger comics and all the older comics who only played clubs at the time, didn't know the young scene, and the clubs were closed, so they didn't know how to get up.
Yeah.
So I was like the bridge a little bit to connect comics that never been connected to each other.
That's awesome.
I can't get up. I was like, well, come to this show. Where's this show? Come to the park. So then my buddy Matthew, I met him when he was 15 at Governor's Comedy Club. Matthew Arvalo.
I had him on a couple weeks ago. He's great.
Fire.
Yeah.
Funny, super funny.
Great guy.
Little dog.
Yeah.
I was like my freaking little brother. But we freaking, I met him in Long Island, and he was 15, 16 in the green room, just talking about just being a 16-year-old.
Yeah.
Ronald Reagan is the greatest president. Like, what the frick is this kid talking about? But I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
But we were the youngest person. I was like in my mid-20s, and he's like 16.
Yeah.
So he goes to college. We have like a show at the Creek in the Cave, and then during the pandemic, I remember he was like, man, I can't get on the show. I can't get on this park show. And I was on more shows than him. I was like, just start your own show. It's a park. It's not that hard. Go start your own. He goes, well, I'm thinking about it. I was like, let's freaking do it. Pick somebody you trust. Then he goes, I only trust you. And I was like, oh, frick. So we did the show together, but it was the best thing ever because we literally developed crowd work. We weren't crowd working comics.
Yeah.
we had to talk to the crowd because we're trying to get people to sit in the park with us. So we used to do like 30 minutes, just me and him.
Yeah, that's great.
Just trying to warm the crowd up. Like, all right, we got something else. So we just learned so much and like built so much in the pandemic. He learned from me. We're learning from each other, just like how to just be free. I was like, yo, F that joke. Do this one. I'll freaking do this one. I'll do this one. So after the pandemic, like Julio, I remember Julio Diaz, he hit like a bump. Like before the pandemic, he used to be super quiet. He's quiet now, but he used to be like this super, like samurai quiet dude.
Yeah.
And now when you see him on stage, you see him bouncing a little bit, got that long ponytail. But in the pandemic, you could never say Julio Diaz wasn't funny because he's on every freaking show.
Yeah, he's doing super well.
So it was just like that pandemic where we just knew, everybody in our class knew, like, there's only going to be one glitch in the matrix where no one can ever say that these guys aren't funny because we're all doing the same shows. And after that, all the clubs started opening up. Went to Broadway Comedy Club because that right now they couldn't do. It was the capacity was only 20 people.
Yeah.
So we went there. Boom. We all did audition there. The next you know it, we started doing. Kenny started bringing the pair back.
Yeah.
And I remember, this is how cool God is. It was Easter Sunday, and I'm at the stand chilling, and it's Easter Sunday. Nobody's really there. Like the crowd's there, but comics are just running late. And I remember this comic's running late by like 20 minutes. And the manager goes, hey, Jerry, you want to go up?
That's nice.
Can you do a spot? And I was like, yeah, I'll do a spot. Freaking crush. And after that, they're like, hey, you just got passed. That was your audition.
That's awesome.
And just
Very
like,
cool.
So it's just like being prepared for that moment.
Yeah.
Just learning how to abandon your set. Because when I was in the park, I realized, I take way too long to get to the funny stuff. I wait way too long. I should just switch my setup and go bam, 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 bam.
Yeah.
It should be nonstop, balls to the wall, and that's just me learning in the park. Like, oh wow, that was the Tampa thing. The Florida thing is just like misdirection. Till I realized, like, if I just put all the heat up front, if I just do these little jokes, and I can tell a big story at the end because I proved to the crowd I'm funny already.
Yeah.
And that was just in the pandemic, just learning.
You earn the trust.
People are depressed.
Yep.
People don't want to be reminded of being back in the house, so they want the jokes fast.
Yep.
Then I finally found that New York City beat.
Awesome.
Boom, boom.
It's the best. I think it's the best.
Yeah, so now I realize. So when I go back home, I have to like slow it down a little bit because they're like, oh, and I was like, oh, frick, I don't
get oxygen tanks.
I was
for
like,
people?
yeah, frick, it's. I was like, I can do it's 45 minutes. I don't got to rush because I'm trying to cram a lot of bits into 10 minutes.
You don't want the Tampa people choking on their Cuban sandwiches. Yeah.
We did start the Cuban sandwich. You know that, right?
You did, right? In Tampa, right? Ybor City, I guess.
Everybody thought that it was in Cuba. It happened there.
No, I bet. That's an awesome spot. Did you ever go to Columbia Restaurant?
We used to go to Columbia Restaurant. Me and my wife, we'd do a lot of date nights out there. And that's I went back home. When did I go back home? I went back home like two months ago for my dad's 60th birthday party.
Congrats.
And shout out to my pops. Shout out to Esau Waters, Colonel Waters. And it just made me realize, like, even though I'm happy at home, I realize that it's not my place anymore. You know,
Tampa.
Like even comedically, it's just like I feel like my fight is here.
That's good, though. I mean, the great thing about New York, I mean, the way I always put it, like, I'm from here, whatever, it's like the best and worst of everything is here. I think we have natural beauty, we have the dirty city, we have everything in between. You meet great people, you meet awful people, you meet everything in between. I just feel like there's just everything. There's over 200 languages spoken in Queens, you know?
That's a fact.
Yeah, so that's what I like is like, you know, I think like Chris Distefano was putting it this way. He's like, even if you hate somebody, you're like a group of people. If there's people with prejudice, like you have to see them. You have to face them. You can't really hide from them, you know?
Look at Chris Distefano, man. I remember when he would come and him and Damian Lemon would do like a co-headlining thing in Tampa, and to see that he just sold out freaking, was it Radio City?
I was there for that one. That was awesome.
Get the
and it blew me out of the water. Like, I joked with my friend, like, I like Chris D a lot. Like, we have the parallels of growing up in a similar place, play basketball growing up, all that stuff. Italian a little bit, Irish, whatever. But, like, you know, I went into that show saying, like, even if it's just average on paper, like, I'll be so happy. I'm proud of him for doing this, like, where he's come from, whatever. And then he fucking murdered it. Unbelievable show.
Dude, we're in the era now where I think we're having like comedy superstardom is back, where it's like the golden age of comedy again, because now everyone can have a base. Everyone
a demand.
Can have a demand of comedy, and everyone is following in love with like different comics, and I think that's great. That you don't have to do whatever you do. There's a people for you.
100%.
There's a dude named Dan Cummins. He used to take me on the road, and he talked about just like how I did the Comedy Central, did everything else, and his podcast is whatever it was just blew up, and now he has a whole new base of people that love him, that are buying his specials, and I was like, man, you found your audience.
Right.
That's wild.
No, I mean, that's the cool thing too. Even like with my peers or people who are older or whatever, you see people who've been doing it for a certain amount of time. They could be great. You know them to be great. I think, not to always bring it back to online, but that is kind of what drives a lot of it nowadays. Yeah. It's like they find like, oh, they do this kind of vlog and they do it consistently. Momo with his sketches, dude.
Oh, he's so funny.
Dude, Momo's great. And he had one the other day that hit like 70 million or something crazy. He's awesome. Saw him for the first time in person in like 3 weeks the other day. Good to see him. Shout out. Get him.
And he's funny too. Stand up is funny.
Oh, his stand up is great. I know him from that first. I just knew him as someone, we were doing mics together. And then like all of a sudden there must have been a switch he hit where he's like, I'm going to do sketches consistently. Right. So consistently, not going to stop. And like they were good and they were tight. And been able to be in some of them. That's cool. And it's like, it's cool to see that like people you interact with like find their audience online. Like they get fans and stuff. And
it's great that you guys are working together. I love that. I love seeing comics work together. That's my whole thing, is just connect the swamp. That's my whole motto. Connect the swamp. Yeah. Apes together strong. That's what they said in Planet of the Apes. Like, look at all of Adam Sandler's movies.
Yeah, his buddies.
His buddies are in there. Look at all Chris Rock's movies. Yeah. Just all Tracy Morgan's always in them. Yeah. I was like, I love seeing comics just working together.
Yeah, because it's not just helping your friends. Like, they're trusting their friends because they deserve to be trusted.
Yes.
They're not there as charity. They're there because they deliver, and it's like a fun, beautiful thing. And then you meet more people over time. You don't abandon who's good to you, who you're loyal to,
Dog, when Julio Diaz got Netflix as a joke, I remember me and Julio, we talk all the time. But I remember when I used to bring him on stage, like, yo, you seen this guy on HBO? You seen him on Netflix? And I could see him like that. And then one time he got it. When he got Netflix as a joke, he's like, dog, he's like, it's like somebody willed it. I was like, dog, your credit is my credit, dog. I'm happy. Anything that you accomplish that I know about, I'm just happy that I know somebody. There was a comic that he got a TV show, right? He wrote his own TV show during the pandemic. I was like, hey, man. I was like, yo, what's it like on TV? I think he was asking, like, can I put him in the TV show? But I was trying to tell him, like, dude. And he was kind of like, yo, are you the New York Times or something? Why you asking all these questions about the show? I said, look, dog, I used to know a dude with a TV credit. Now I know a dude who has a TV show. Right. Dog, I said, that's motivating. And he had to take a step back because he was stressed about writing the show and goes, dang, I didn't think about it like that. Yeah. I just remember you just being a guy from the South who was just on a TV show, just as a regular. Now I see you have your own TV shows. Like, dog, that's exciting. Very. And he was just like, yeah. I didn't think about it like that. So I was like, I'm a fan, man. Yeah. I'm a fan of just all my peers or people around me. So, dog, Marcelo Hernandez, I remember he had like the show we do at the Grizzly Pear, the Sunday one, Sunday service.
You do, yeah.
He used to have every fifth Sunday by himself.
Yeah.
12 a.m. He would be out.
At the Pear?
Rain, he would be out there selling tickets.
Oh, he barked for the Pear?
He did. That was his show. His show was Sunday.
Oh, that's cool.
So his show Sunday, he did everything. He was out there. So, like, and he's from Miami. I'm from Tampa. So, just watching him just freaking hit. And it just freaking SNL. I'm like, dog, he's always been a star. Yeah. So, it's just, I'm happy to know somebody who's just doing their thing.
It's exciting.
And it freaking pops. And, like, dog, and he's the same person.
Yeah.
Super cool. Like, yo, here goes my mom. Yo, let's say hi to my mom.
Yeah.
So, just knowing that your time will come.
Totally.
And what's for you is for you, and what's for them is for them. But I'm just happy knowing that there's people that I started stand-up with are just actually just hitting that lick.
Yeah. Well, that's the beautiful thing is, like, there's no finite amount of spots in this thing. You find a road, a pathway. You hit your other people, they branch out on the tree. Like, we just can make it for ourselves nowadays. Really, truly.
Dog, I remember I said my goal in the city was just to do 100 shows.
Yeah.
That was my goal the first year, just 100.
100 shows in the year?
That's all I wanted was 100.
Oh, speaking of, before I forget this, I do, so you posted last year, like, the shows you did, how they went, time. I do that every show now.
I love it.
I do that.
I think I know a whole bunch of comics that do it, and I was like, dog, I said, we never try to reflect on what we've done.
It's great because you see, even when I scroll through it quickly just to get to the end, I'm like, oh, I'm doing way more than I thought I would be doing this year. This is great.
And you start hustling more. You're like, oh, it's
No, you get motivated by it.
Freaking Samantha Santos, I remember she started in our park. I was like, yo, freaking 200's nothing.
Yeah.
I was like, once you pass 200, you realize 300's not away. I remember me and my wife were sitting there last year, and I was like, look, we're at 900. She's like, you said you wanted 700. I said, I bet you I can get to 1,000. She goes, yeah. And the next you know, I was like, freak, we just broke 1,000.
That's awesome.
And I remember Mark Norman said one time in passing, he goes, 720. Like what? 720.
Oh,
Get up twice a night, two times a week for a year, 720 shows.
He does a lot too. For somebody who doesn't have to,
Still
like he hustles a lot.
I was we were looking at Aaron Berg's I was Steve Burns one time. He had let me feature for him and down in Florida, and we did Sarasota. And I was like, "Hey man, someone beat your record of 11 spots." He goes, "Yeah, I know, yeah." And I saw Aaron Berg's thing, and then one time I was like, "You think you could break that?" I was like, "You know what? I don't know. I think I could." I was like, "If I map it out right, once you get past it, more clubs. If you just think about it, I was like, man, it's possible."
To beat 11 spots in a night?
I think his record is 26.
In one
26 sets. I think he did like Long
They did like a
Island and
brunch
stuff
show or something like that.
But I mean, it's possible in New York City,
Oh,
especially
totally.
with the park shows and everything else. But
100%.
it was cool seeing a dude like Aaron Berg just like give you respect of just like you did 1,000 spots, freaking hustler,
Yeah.
So it's like that thing of just like, dog, I may not have gotten what comics to watch or anything else, but I was like, but I know comics are watching.
Totally.
I know that.
No, your time is coming.
I know
whatever
that
that
work
is for
ethic
you.
propels everything else. I know like eventually you get to see it, and sometimes when you start realizing like your goal is 1,000, people start throwing you spots because they're like, yo, he's trying to get the spots. Everyone in New York City is like this. They want to see somebody either going up like this so they can put coal inside the engine,
Yeah.
or they like seeing people go down and like, all right, let's stay away from this one.
Yes.
But like once they see you rising, or once you start catching steam, people are just gonna start putting coal inside the train,
Yeah.
and be like this.
No, it's infectious and they want to be part of it.
Look at Assad. I remember Assad, that boy.
Oh, he's doing great.
I remember him just being, well, what's up, man? What's going on? Oh, I love to do your show.
Yeah.
Can I do your show?
Well, his
Let's
is
just do the
quick.
time.
I mean, he's very good. Like I saw him at a mic maybe a year and a half ago, but I feel like a lot of shit just happened right after that. And I was like,
But just work. That boy works hard.
He's
That's
funny.
what-
He just-
him and his little crew. They're always like, I did an open mic today. I did 3 open mics. Oh, I'm gonna do another open mic. And I was like, yeah. And I felt that love of just like, man, I remember what it was like doing that.
Yeah.
And they're not jaded by the business yet. They're still. It's fun. They're not. Their heart's not getting broken yet because everything is coming because he's having fun with his friends.
But
There
that's the thing to prioritize.
You ever watch this thing called Open Mic or Micer or something like that?
With who?
They would just follow random comedians like years ago, and I remember Suba Argual did it.
No, I don't
And
think I've seen this.
I gotta send it to you where she's
Yeah.
like doing 20 open mics a week, and she's like writing jokes and like doing different things. And I remember like when they gave her it's a show called someone with Wyatt Cenac.
Yeah.
She did this show and then she just starts crying about like how hard it is to work and to finally get that break. And I was like, dang.
It's gotta feel beautiful.
And I remember I told her, I was like, dog, you're one of my favorite comics. And she got weird. I was like, dog, I was like, no, I'm dead. I was like, you motivated me. I left Tampa because I saw that episode of you.
That's awesome.
Of you, everything else like that. She's like, oh, thank you so much. I was like, no, I'm dead serious, dog. I remember she got passed at the cellar. And we were at the same show that night. I was like, what, you got passed? What the friggin'? And she's like excited. And I was like, dog, that's motivating, man. I used to watch you on this thing and you freaking doing this. This is exciting. So now it's like you're in the major leagues, you know?
Yeah.
Instead of like thinking about stuff, I'm like, dog, everyone that I've looked up to, I've done a show with.
Yeah.
That's freaking wild.
No, that's exciting. And when like comics were established, they're like nice to you. Like, I mean, I see Eric Newman on the street all the time, McDougal.
Oh, he's such a nice guy.
He's awesome. Very
He's
nice.
such a
He's
nice
from
guy.
Queens too. And like I said to him, like,
Oh,
he is. Yeah. And I said, dude, congrats on Gramercy. He's like, dude, like it feels like a long time coming, but I'm happy. Like I wouldn't want any other way, whatever. Just, you know, when they give you that infectious energy, Schultz, saw Schultz in the street once. He's like, I was barking for the pair. He's like, dude, I did what you did once. Like, and like I had to act like I wasn't weird and didn't know all about it. Like, yeah, I watched all your vlogs. I know you were the comedy shop, you know, the Village Lantern.
I had to pretend I didn't know the story.
Yeah, you and Akash at 1 a.m. The Swedish tourist. You know, like I had to act like I didn't know all that. And he was just like nice. And I was like, yeah, dude, great. And those moments really propel you. But even besides all that stuff, like just getting back, the beauty of this thing is like it is very process oriented. Like you don't need to fixate like I need this like HBO thing. Like every night you get up in front of 2 people, you get up in front of 20, you get up in front of 80, 100. It's like you're doing what you love to do. Dude, I go to bed sometimes if I had a good set, even if it's a bad set, but mostly if it's a good set, I'm like, I'm doing stand-up comedy in New York City. Like, I think this is like borderline objectively the best place to do it on the planet.
Dog,
This is cool.
Who would have thought, man? I can't. Every time, that's what people say in the green, like, Gerald, you like New York City, big life. I said, dog, I'm living here, man.
Yeah.
You ever been like driving past that skyline and you see all them buildings? Like
Going over the bridge, dude. Oh,
man, that's what me and my wife, I was like, look at that. We're like going to Costco. It's like, yo, isn't that crazy we live in New York City?
beautiful, man.
She's like, yeah, that's freaking wild. So it's I feel just like you. Every day I have to pinch myself. I was like, even when I'm talking to my family, like, you live in New York City? Yeah, I'm thriving and surviving.
Yeah.
I don't even say surviving, just freaking thriving.
No, I'm grateful that I even have that gratitude. That's the one thing is like I've dealt with depression early 20s and beyond, whatever. Since I started stand-up, I've had little mini bouts, but it's like it really kind of goes away quicker because of it. It's like I know what I'm doing is what I have to be doing right now, and I love it. There's
those endorphins, man.
Nothing beats it.
What does it say in the Bible? Laughter is like a good dose of medicine, man.
Yeah.
So you just gotta realize, I just look at someone inside there is having a bad day.
Yeah.
And you spend time. I can't tell you how many times at the park show, some girl the other day, probably like a month ago, me and Farzan see this chick hanging on the fence. And usually at the park show, there's people that sit there and there's fencers.
Yeah.
Just people that hang on the fence. They see us every day.
Yeah.
And every Wednesday and they come to. And this girl calls like, "Did you have a good night at the show?" She goes, I was like, "Come on, you just saw Judah Friedlander."
Yeah.
And then I just walked up to her. I was like, "Hey, can I give you a hug?" And she just breaks down, starts crying. It was a rough day for me. I got fired from my job, everything else. But you guys like talked to me at the park, and I started laughing. Thank you so much. And Far's like, "What, did you know her?" I was like, "No, I was trying to say it like that." Then this other dude, he comes to the park and he finally goes, "Hey man, I lost my job. My girl left me, and this park show like gives me something that I do on Wednesday to come." I was like, "Dang, you've been here for like a year and a half." Just regulars, just parks. I set you at the park. You guys barked me in one time, and I was like, "Dog, we're just doing like a good service." So I'll never end this park show. We'll freaking do it until like I'm free. Well,
if it helps one person,
I'll pass it to someone else.
It feels good for you and them, you know.
Yeah, you get to do it. I've watched Matthew like grow from doing like 20 minutes to doing 50 minutes.
Yeah.
I remember I was like, "All right, it's your birthday show. I'm gonna light you at 40."
That's cool.
What? Lighting you at 45. Because I remember he's like, "I don't know if I can do it." I was like, "Well, don't get off the stage until 45 minutes in."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Look at that. You did 45.
Oh, and that challenge feels good. Rising to that, you know?
Rising to that. Or just meeting comics that I saw come up and like, "You know this comic?" I was like, "Yeah, I know the comic. He's so funny." That's good seeing that he's working hard.
Yeah.
It's good seeing that the scene is in the right place of just everyone helping each other.
Yeah.
And just knowing that it's strength in numbers, you know? Just seeing that. Like seeing you in a sketch with Momo, I was like, "Look at them boys building together."
Yeah.
Freaking Daniela Mora. I remember when she first
works
started.
hard, man.
Yeah, she's
Love
like,
Daniela.
"What's up? We're trying to get the biddies."
Yeah.
We used to do a show together. Like it's cool seeing her now, just out here clocking spots.
Oh,
I think I saw she did like 5 spots in one night. I
she-
was like, "Okay, Turbo, I see you out here."
Yeah. No, and she's great. I mean, there were times where like one time her and I texted like, "You want to do Mike's tonight?" She's like, "Yeah," and then I did one, and then I was like, "This other one, I don't know if I could do it. I gotta wake up at 5 a.m." She's like, "It's called The Grind." Like, you know, I was like, "Oh shit, all right."
It's called The Grind.
Yeah, she like does like her Daniela faces and stuff. She's great, man. I mean, early on in comedy, she was like one of my first close comedy friends I felt I could trust and talk to. So like,
Didn't I meet you through her? Didn't you
probably.
come to this? Yeah, when you came to the.
Yeah,
Yeah,
an
you came to
Astoria
the-
show or something.
Yeah.
Yes, most
It
likely.
was that, and then I remember Daniela because she's the first person that ever made me feel like we had our show, and she goes, "I'm gonna turn some music on." She's like, "You're killing the vibes." I was like, "This is juvenile and mystical."
I mean, she's a natural, dude. She's a natural.
Let me get the aux cord. And she's like, just rocking out. I was like, "I've never been sung on the aux cord in my life."
Dude, we should say her name like 4 more times just for the algorithm because she's gonna pop at some point.
Daniela Moore.
There
Yeah,
we
man.
go.
Shout out Columbia Zone, the
Hell
Bronx
yeah.
Zone from the Bronx.
There we go.
Yeah, but yeah, that's good, man. I'm grateful that I'm in this city. I'm grateful that I have people that are I just know comics. You know, I'm so comfortable with comics, and that's why my lady, when she moved out here, we got her on Bumble BFF so she can meet like new friends, because comedians would just stop her in the grocery store. Yo, I know Jared. And it's like, "Yo, what's up, Turbo Time?" And she's like, I'm trying to get some clothes. I'm trying to get a bra. So she finally got when she got her own squad of friends. But it's like good knowing that there's a community out there.
Yeah.
You know, like when you go to a place, you don't feel awkward anymore. Like, "Oh, I know this comic."
Yeah,
you know?
no, you feel like you're a certain breed of person with comics.
Yes.
You're like even if you guys are way different, the way you approach material or shows or anything, like once you know someone's a comic, you're like, "Oh, we're in this together." It does.
We're in this together.
And most people approach it that way. There's some people sect off or whatever. That's cool, but like most people care, which is nice.
What was it? You know, Dan Wicks.
Yes.
Freaking saying Dan Wicks and freaking James Pontilla, those roast battles. I forgot who they set me up. Some dude named Dave Sheen. He's like fired now. I remember he destroyed me in a roast battle. He said Jared looks like a gay rhino poacher. And I was like, man, I don't got no fire for this.
You're kind of wearing the outfit right now. I'm not gonna lie.
I was like, dang, I got no fire for this dude. This dude was freaking killing me. I was like, man, let me at least make it to the 3rd round.
Are you good at roasting or no?
I'm good at like the old school roasting where you remember those Dean Martin roasts
Kind of.
where like
I know who he is.
where there's before Jeff Foxworthy did like roast battles.
Yes.
It used to be like you're roasting a person that you know.
Yeah.
Like I have no problem roast. Like we're doing a dais and I got time to write about all these people on the
Right.
dais. I would do those type of roasts. But sometimes it's hard me being mean to people like I don't know.
Yeah, the one-on-ones you want to go in a little. I've never done an official, like I've done like birthday roast for people and stuff like that. Like, do you know Tiger Gow?
Yeah.
I did Tiger like a birthday show for him, and I did some stuff there. But you know, he's like, you knew he was open for it. But I would feel weird someone I barely know, or even if I know somebody, I don't know. I feel like the one-on-one roast is like
It's a skill.
it's a skill.
It's a strange skill for two people to go at it that don't know each other.
Yeah.
And
The
dude-
meanness thing is tough for me because it's like you could go somewhere. I'm like,
I don't even know this dude. And the crazy
Right.
thing is they give you information about each other.
yeah. Oh,
So
they
you're
do.
trying-
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's just like I give you a rap sheet about me, you give a rap sheet about yourself.
Okay.
What's unique about you? What about your family? Everything else, or your religious beliefs.
Right.
So you have something to play off of. But this guy, I was like, I didn't know anything about him, and I was like, I can't say this mean stuff to him. But he took the gloves. He took the gloves off of me.
Yeah.
He took
No,
the
and
gloves
I mean, I'm
off
sure
of
you
me.
can
I was-
handle it, but
it
it's
was
like-
funny. But it wasn't like rude or disrespectful. But
Right.
he was like doing just fun stuff about you. Of
course.
You being religious, you being a teacher and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and I was
yeah.
like, dang, you. I was like, you got me, man. Only thing I
Yeah.
can say is like you. He was like a engineer. I was like, he was like wiping out sex robots' memories and stuff like that. That got like a big laugh.
That's good. I like that.
And then they're like, Jerry, we just wanted more meanness out of you, Jerry. We wanted more of this. And I was
Right,
like,
but
come
no,
on.
but there, it's a willingness thing. I just don't have a willingness to go too hard unless it's someone I'm really tight with.
Correct.
You
It's
know?
like, yeah, the if I know somebody, I'm like, all right, I could take the gloves off
Yeah.
of a friend.
I like dark stuff. Like I love it. I love
But it's a
giving and
skill.
receiving. It's a skill, yeah, of course. And that's the thing too. Is like as much as I say this, like I probably wouldn't be as good as I think I am at it because I don't do it enough. You know, you realize that doing comedy, it's like you find certain pockets and you always want to expand and get better at others.
But that's the
pieces
best
of-
thing about comedy. There's so much. There's roast battlers. There's sketch writers. There's improvers. There's us. And the thing about it is a lot of people don't know, like, improv is so freaking hard.
So I did one semester of improv at UCB.
Come on, man. It's
hard. Well, because it's also like you got to commit early and you got to be in there, and it's just like when it doesn't hit, like how do you get out of that? And
Accept everything.
yeah, it's tricky, man. I would come up with wild premises. Like one time, I've mentioned this on the podcast at least twice, but one time we were in like our class, and my premise was I was like an editor in a college newspaper. My buddy was starting the sketch with me. Whatever we call it. It's improv, and you start the thing. And I was just like, oh, it's crazy that elephant stomped out 25 people on campus. And then like the teacher was just like, edit. Okay, that was, he was just like, a little much for the start. I was like, yeah, I wanted to commit. My brain went to a weird place. It's hard. It's weird. So that's why I love stand up is like, okay, we could riff and have fun on stage, but you always have your backup. You're like, I know stuff I want to get to,
And back in the day, comics had to do it all.
Yeah.
Robin Williams did it all. Richard
Oh,
Pryor,
yeah.
they sung, danced, they did everything else. It's like old albums of Red Fox singing and stuff. Milton Berle. So I remember one time I went to a North Carolina festival, but I picked the wrong week on accident, and I went there for improv.
Yeah, really?
And I was the only stand-up comic there, and I was like, I'm not going to waste my money. So I took all these improv classes, and this lady explained it so much. She goes, accept everything. Take it somewhere. And she goes, remember, it's character development. She goes, the most great actors can commit to a character, so think what the character can do. And I was like, wow. Made it seem so simple. Then I met Emo Phillips.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the frick is Emo doing here? He goes, I improv too, and I do everything else.
That's good. That's a good
And
one.
my whole goal of the festival was trying to break him to see if he can go to like character work.
Yeah.
And he talked like that the whole time. I was like, oh, I guess this is who he is.
Yeah.
This is just who he is.
I want to watch more Emo Phillips. Does he have like specials out and stuff?
Yeah, he had like a couple like albums.
Okay.
He told me, he goes, back when I was headlining, Chris Rock was my host, and Joy Behar was the feature act.
Yeah. It's
And I was
cool
like-
hearing that, like the story, like Louis and all these people talked about Chris Rock. Like they were like, he was on SNL. He didn't have a great time on SNL. Went on the road for 2 years. Came back. He was like a completely different mega blasting comic that
Killer.
just got way better. And it's cool to hear that. Like some people have said, I mean, this sounded like one person's opinion. They were like, oh, Hannibal Buress, I saw him in New York and he wasn't that funny. And then I saw him 6 months later and he was so much funnier. And when that person said that, I was like, I feel like they just saw him on
Working
one,
on bits.
on one bad night and they had this strong opinion of him. And that's like one of the chips you get on your shoulder as a comic. Like you'd be like, oh, someone saw me on a bad night, but they didn't see me when I've done my best or whatever. But that all fuels you. I think that all.
the hardest part about New York City, because all the big dogs are working on material.
Yeah.
So like when you see them, you don't see them at their prime. It's something when you leave this city,
Yeah.
you freaking put it on.
Yeah.
Even when you go to Long Island, people gotta act. You don't see people like winging it a little bit.
No.
It's just like, let's get these tickets pushed. Let's get this merchandise going.
Yeah.
Let's freaking go balls to the wall.
Yeah. Well, it's also in Long Island, like the people are loud. You got to get them to pay attention.
And they paid $60 for a ticket.
Exactly.
So as soon as you get out the city, everyone's like a complete professional.
Right, which I think is good. It's good to have that differentiation. Like you work on your stuff here, and then you're a little more polished out on the road. You know.
It makes you appreciate comedy when you leave the city, because people are just like, when I went to Iowa a couple weeks ago, I was like, oh, I forgot what it's like for people to be dressed up. I forgot this is their event for the day.
Yeah.
This is their event that they all save money. They got a babysitter for, so give them a show.
Yep.
Give them a freaking
You
show.
know, respecting their time, like,
Yeah,
and
that's-
you want them to respect yours, you know?
New Yorkers are like spoiled with stand-up.
Yeah.
They're spoiled with it because they get the best comedy in the world, so it's kind of like, make me laugh now.
Right.
Or it's just like, they're not really, it's like, it'll come out whatever, which is a good thing. It's a good and bad thing that they've seen so much good comedy that they can give it up to someone who's really funny.
Yep.
You know, or like when you take this, like, well, one dude tagged up my joke in the audience. Maybe you should say Sweet Tea Black. I was like, actually a good idea. That's the best thing about when you post clips, when it goes like viral, some people just start writing tags for you.
Yeah.
Sweet Tea. I was like, oh, freak, let me add this. I was like, man, let me give y'all
man.
some credits for giving me some good tags.
Now, were you out in Iowa? Let me bring this up because it's important. The board teachers thing?
No.
Or is it
So
different?
I was in Iowa for this comedy festival called the Idaho. It was the Idaho's. I forgot. It was a festival.
A festival. Gotcha.
I got booked through this festival couple weeks ago. The guy who booked the festival saw me at a club. He goes, "Hey, you want to come and do 45?" I was like, "F yeah!" So we went down to Idaho, and then when I do the board teachers is like when it's in like New York City, like when it's in like the New York tri-state area. That's when I'll hop on tour with those guys.
Yeah.
Some of those guys I started out with, Devin Seabold and Casey Macker from Texas, so they do that. But my goal is just to stay in the city. I don't like going out too much until like I'm a draw. Does that make sense?
I get that, but those shows seem awesome, the board teachers, because they're in theaters and stuff.
They're in theaters, but sometimes for me, it's just like I'm aware that they're not there to see me. Does that mean I'm a bonus to the show?
Right.
You know, they're there to see like the people they came to see. I'm just like, what? He was funny and he was great.
Yeah.
It's like you're a feature act. You're like there to be a feature act. But I do appreciate the board teachers. They've been really good to me. All those guys are like, it's cool knowing that there's like teachers out there who are like really stand-up comics. And they're very unique how they do their act. And it's like a while since I've done those jokes. So like I can just do like how I'm feeling because, you know, teaching's not hard. It's not easy.
Yeah.
You know, I get up 5:50 in the morning to make it to work. And then when I make it to work, I'm just sitting there like thinking like,
And you're up late with stand-up, man.
yeah,
I mean, I do that too. I teach tennis out on Long Island.
come on.
So I wake up early. Most days I wake up 6:15, 6:30 to drive out there. And it's like, you know, but I wouldn't have it any other way. Like even if I'm up late, like at the Pair, like I don't get home till midnight or 1 a.m. or whatever. I'm like, there's nothing else I'd want to do ever. You know?
It all pays off and eventually. And sometimes it's
Yeah.
good. Like when I do those, we'll go out, if we go on tour a little bit, it's cool to just be in the hotel and kick it a little bit. And I'll take those days. We're like, all right, let me edit these videos. Let me get stuff ready. Let me get the content ready. And just, it's like a little hiccup to be like, all right, breathe and come back to the city.
Yeah. I also like being, I imagine you're similar because you're doing it, you're grinding, but like, do you like being busy? Like I like being busy.
I love being busy. So this Saturday and Sunday, these are like my chill days. Me and my wife, we went
Sorry
to
to
the
have you
movie.
come
No, it's all good. We'll like watch a movie together. We'll do things like that. But like even when I got one show, I'm looking for two.
Yep.
Even when I got two, I can look for three.
Yeah.
So it's just like I hunt all the time.
It's good.
I'm always freaking this. It's always
You're
always
ready.
just freaking
I
hunting.
gotta
because
check your licenses. If you
I
could
freaking
carry
want
them.
it, man.
Yeah.
You know, I was
Yeah.
like, man, there's another chance I can. Just 5 minutes, I can make myself better.
Of course.
See if I can get on. So I just love being busy, but I have no problem turning it off. Does that make sense?
No, for sure.
So like this year, 2023, me and my lady, I was like, let's go vacations. We always take 2 vacations, big ones. So we did Guatemala as a family trip, and then we did Egypt.
Nice.
And then I was telling my lady, I was like, just enjoy it. Let's freaking just do it. Then I realized I was writing more jokes about just being in different countries. Realized like, oh, that's a whole nother 10 minutes I've freaking developed. Just being out in another country, enjoying and do everything
you
else.
Get material from living.
Life
man.
experiences.
It's important. I went to Europe in June and I got like.
Where'd you go?
I went to Italy and Ireland.
Come on. Did you get up at all or did you want?
I got up once in Ireland
Fun?
Yeah, good. They have a good scene there. I reached out to a bunch of people. Italy, I just missed out on some shows by like a day, which sucked. It was like it would have been
different
cool.
out there.
It would have been cool to get up there, but they have less of it, as far as English speaking shows go or whatever. But then in Ireland, there's a really good scene. I went to Galway. If you ever go to Galway, let me know because great scene in Galway. Ireland's smallest comedy club.
We're going to Brazil. February, and then we're going to Tokyo.
Ooh.
Tokyo. I used to live in Tokyo, but I never been there as like a man, and my wife's never been there. So let's go to Tokyo. We're going to go there, go to Tokyo. I think I'm going to do like maybe one spot. I try not to be too turbo time on vacation time. We try to just live and enjoy the moments.
Yeah, and you'll get material out of it.
Get material. But yeah, shout out to you. I'm going to see you out in Europe. That'll be cool. We're sharing a show out in Europe somewhere,
For sure, of course. Well, I got to go soon, so we should wrap up. But I've been enjoying talking to you. Thanks so much for coming.
Thanks for having me. Nice couch. Shout out to these llamas.
We got llamas and Kevin James on the wall. What else could you ask for in an apartment? I don't think much else. This has been Jared Waters. This has been I'm Up with Anthony Santino. Guys, like, follow, subscribe. Follow Jared on Instagram. What's your Instagram?
My Instagram is Mr. Waters on everything. TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Mr. Waters, MR Waters. If you see a black dude on the horse, that is me. Have a marvelous day.
And he's ready to hunt. And my name is Anthony Santino, and you probably gathered that if you stayed this long. So, hey, thank you guys. Bye. Good stuff, man. Thanks so much. That was a great time.